to private citizens, to our tourism partners, to government.
Development goal, they need to be partnering with FIDA. Children,
we thought treat more than half of the world's population, making us an important but often underutilized resource. Today we take a moment to reflect on the progress made by the African woman and child. Progress, whether negative or positive, because it means that we are not static. Growth for us in this context is economic, political, and social-cultural. We are saying this at this time that we must move beyond the rhetoric, look deeper, and take action. Have you moved forward or backward? If we have moved backward, why is that happening? If we have moved forward, what were the enablers so that we can focus on those to birth more positive progress? These are the conversations we will be having within the next few days. It is common knowledge now that promoting gender equality is a game changer, especially economically and politically. Closing the gender gap means higher productivity and growth. According to the IMF in 2018, if Nigeria were to reduce gender inequality, the economy will grow. When women participate fully in the labor force, more opportunities are created and this generates growth. If a woman grows, the nation grows and profits. The First Lady of Nigeria, Her Excellency Haji Aisha Buhari, has on several occasions called for gender parity, empowerment of women and the girl child education, as sine qua non for development and growth of the nation. In her independence message to Nigerians a few days ago, she called on privileged Nigerians, the private sector, and non-governmental organizations to do more in the areas of education, health, empowerment, and protection of women and children, believing that the future of Nigeria is bright. FIDA shares this belief even as we urge the federal and state governments to partner with us to actualize the Sustainable Development Goals. The Secretary General of the UN in his address to celebrate the 2017 Women's Day had this to say, and I quote, "Despite some improvements, leadership positions across board are still held by men, and the economic gender is widening thanks to outdated attitudes and entrenched male chauvinism. We must change this by empowering women at all levels, enabling their voices to be heard, and giving them control over their own lives and over the future of our world," unquote. This supports the view of the British Deputy High Commissioner in Nigeria and FIDA that male allies are vital to the attainment of gender parity in our society, and we should continue to include men in our conversations as strongly as we do women. Children are the foundation of every society, and so when they are properly brought up, this affects the society positively, and when not properly brought up, the society suffers the consequences of such avoidable negligence. Parents and the government are responsible for the proper upbringing of the child, and where this is lacking, the child suffers neglect and abuse. Unfortunately, we witness a lot of this in Africa. The recurrent challenges affecting the quality of lives of children include lack of education, access to health care, legal rights, sexual abuse, child labor, drug abuse, access to social recreation, insecurity, trafficking, adequate feeding, and so on. We must continue to advocate on these and more, cooperate with government, enlighten parents until we get the decent and progressive society that we desire. In Africa, the post-colonial period and independence saw a few women participating in politics. With the reintroduction of democracy, the participation of women rose to 6.7%, both in elective and appointed positions.
This year's conference is the growth of women and children in Africa beyond rhetoric. Where are we? I am most delighted to be part of this August meeting of the International Federation of Female Lawyers, FIDA, holding in Nigeria, and most especially here in Abuja. It is most heartwarming to note that FIDA, an all-women membership association, operates like an international NGO that aims to enhance the status of women and children by providing legal aid and literacy education programs through advocacy, law reform, research, and publications. Considering the foregoing, FIDA shares common values with the Ministries of Women Affairs in the 3 tiers of government, especially considering the areas that center on women and children. The mandate of the ministry is basically to ensure improved livelihood of the vulnerable in Nigeria, leaving no one behind. As my sister rightly says, the woman is the heart of the home. And if it is well with the woman, it's well with the family, it's well with the husband, it's well with all the children. So, putting the woman in the center stage will move this country better and faster. The ministry works with various stakeholders to implement various strategies to achieve its mandate, of which FIDA is one. The theme of the conference is apt at this time, especially considering Mr. President's mandate for the next level. President Muhammadu Buhari is committed to improving Nigerian socio-economic status, eliminating insecurity and corruption, among others. In Nigeria, women are a strong force to reckon with. Women and children constitute a larger proportion of the entire population, and women alone are more than half of the population of Nigeria. From the pre-colonial era to the 21st century, the role and status of women have continuously evolved. In some areas, though, women appear as a group of helpless, oppressed, and marginalized people, while in others, women are seen working and are fully determined to have a voice. Women have always played a major role in socio-economic activities in various capacities, divisions of labor being along gender lines, women control occupations that were food-related, farming, trading, pottery, mat weaving, cooking, and so many others. Land was communally owned, and women had access through heads of families. In most cases, their husbands, parents are older women. Women were a strong force in trade and even politics as the basic unit of political organization, which is the family. Therefore, where chieftaincy titles like the Iyalodes in the southwest and their equivalents in other parts of the country, positions of great privilege and power. The plight of women emanated when patriarchy and colonial changes altered gender relations. The female chieftaincy positions declined when male chiefs collaborated with colonial masters in tax collection and governance. This made the economy increasingly shift towards cash crops for export, where men and foreigners dominated in their distribution and the women became relegated to the background and to deal mostly with subsistence farming. The land tenure system that prevented alienation gave way to land commercialization, which favored those with access to money. Western-style education favored boys over girls, largely excluding women from many of the occupations and opportunities. Women and the girl child in several parts of the country suffered neglect and degeneration due to poverty, social and gender norms, poor level of education, in some areas political and economic ties, gender-based violence, and especially against the girl child. Records shows that mostly 18% of girls married before the age of 15 and 44% before the age of 18 in northern Nigeria, and mostly occurring in the poorest households. Nigeria ranked third highest with absolute highest number of child brides, more than 3.5 million, and 11th highest prevalence rate of child marriage globally. A World Bank study estimated child marriage costs in Nigeria to $7.6 billion in lost earnings and productivity annually. Unfortunately, only 24 states have adopted and domesticated the Child Rights Act since 2003. 4 states only have adopted the Violence Against Persons Act since 2015. And there is a need to harmonize the CRA and the Sexual Offense Bill, the latter setting the minimum age for sexual consent as 11 instead of 18, as stated in the CRA. Even the CRA is due for review. We are advocating for stiffer penalties for perpetrators of violence against children, sexual abuse, and labor. Today, we say enough is enough. We not only are challenging the powerful change agent for the modern woman and the girl child, which is the formal education system. Many systems of patriarchy are challenged, and women are gradually organizing themselves to ensure that the political arena expands to fully accommodate them. We are bringing back our values, gender equality and parity. A couple of days ago, I led a march and rally with various stakeholders to mark the International Day of the Girl Child. The team and sub-team focused on improving the livelihood of the girl child and advocating for free and compulsory education for the girl child in Nigeria. The ministry conducts high-level advocacy and sensitization activities to address issues affecting women and children in Nigeria, specifically targets the leadership of the worst performing states. The ministry also seeks to explore proactive ways to ensure the girl child registers and completes her education. Some states have the girl child school registration to be less than 30%. Most of the girls drop out at puberty. The ministry is supporting activities to promote women in peace and security development, developed national action plans which have been domesticated by most states. The ministry is fully involved in the European Union and United Nations sponsored Spotlight initiative to eliminate gender-based violence, and in fact driving the agenda for some of the areas in collaboration with relevant stakeholders. In collaboration with various partners, there is a Nigeria for Women project for empowerment of the rural women, and for now it is being piloted in 6 states. Nigeria is committed to several conventions and treaties and signed the joint statement at the Human Rights Council in 2014, calling for a resolution on the Child Marriage Act. In 2016, a campaign was launched to end the child marriage in Africa. Nigeria put in place legislation to ratify the legal age for marriage to be 18 years. Child labor and child marriage are illegal in Nigeria. The ministry has a strategic plan to end child marriage by 2030. Various strategies to promote child protection, development, and survival and growth of the girl child. The Child Rights Act Implementation Committee is established by the ministry, and the ministry chairs the technical working group on the child protection. Nigeria is one of the pathfinder countries in Africa because of the progress made in eliminating violence against children. There are several areas we can join hands to deal with in addressing the growth of women and children in Nigeria, especially through innovative ways, and involving other sectors. I once again congratulate FIDA for the good work we are doing. Nigeria compared to other countries, yes, we are on a very low stage, but I want us to remain hopeful. All efforts are being made to change the narrative, and by the grace of God, Mr. President will do more for women.
Her little nails can be polished and beautiful henna designs can be drawn on her hands. A little girl somewhere whose barely emerging body has been carefully washed, perfumed, powdered, clothed in silk, so she can be presented as a bride to a man, who will tell her that the breaking of her hymen is what it takes to magically transform her into a woman. As I stand here speaking to you, there is a woman washing dishes in a kitchen somewhere, changing diapers in a bedroom somewhere, sweeping the floor in a sitting room somewhere, who, but for the fact that she was born with a vagina and not a penis, could have been a neurosurgeon or an astrophysicist or a senior advocate of Nigeria. I tell you, not everybody is so fortunate. But what makes the story even more tragic is that it is not enough to be fortunate. It is not enough. It is not enough to be fortunate because there are certain things that this world takes for granted. It is not enough to be fortunate because we live in a world where a man who sleeps with more than one woman is just a man. But a woman who sleeps with more than one man is a prostitute. It is not enough to be fortunate because we live in a world where a husband who comes home from work, loosens his tie, collapses into the couch in front of the TV, is tired. But a wife who comes home from work, removes her wig, and collapses into the couch in front of the TV, is lazy. It is not enough to be fortunate because we live in a world where a young man who is single but has his own car, his own money, his own house, is attractive. But a young woman who is single and has her own money, her own car, her own house, at the very best is intimidating. At the very worst is highly suspicious. This is the world we live in. This is the world that my daughter will leave my house to encounter. So it's not enough that she has a privileged background, because one day she will face a situation that I as a man will never face. One day she will stand in front of somebody, and regardless of the value she brings to the table, one day she will stand in front of somebody who will insist on judging her only by the bounce of her breast and the width of her hips. Somebody who will insist on judging her only by her willingness or not to take her clothes off. And on that day, I would like my daughter to be able to fight back with more than her privileged upbringing. On that day, I would like her to be able to fight back with more than the values I taught her at home. On that day, I would like her to be able to fight back also with a constitution that has finally woken up to its responsibility to guarantee freedom from discrimination for all. I would like her to be able to fight back with a legal system that is finally standing up to its responsibility to ensure equality and justice for all. I would like her to be able to fight back with policies entrenched in every workplace. Policies that recognize that the woman at work is not there at or for the pleasure of her male colleagues. I would like her to be able to fight back with the support of a society that has finally come to the recognition that the most important organ in the human body, male or female, is the brain. A society that has come to the recognition that if we continue to judge our members by their tribe, by their faith, by their gender, that if we refuse to judge the human being by only by his or her individual capacity, as such a society that refuses to judge people by their merit is eternally doomed to poverty, to ignorance, to conflict, and to backwardness. This is not a curse, it is the truth. That if we imprison our girls and our women in the kitchen and the bedroom, we are suppressing half of our own humanity. We are suppressing half of our own ingenuity. We are suppressing half of our own capacity to face and tackle our own problems, because there is no hawk, there is no falcon, there is no eagle anywhere in this world, no matter how mighty, that can soar with just one wing. This is why we must not relent to tackle this oldest of all discriminatory systems, older even than racism, because it begins right there at the source, in the delivery room, in the way we welcome our own children into the world, the way we kneel in reverence at the appearance of the boy child. But when it's a girl, we look over our shoulder and say, oh, it's just a girl. As if she was just born to occupy space. No child is born into this world to occupy space. Every child is a possibility. Every child is a chance to rewrite the course of our own history. Every child is an opportunity to change the future. And if you think about it, that is the real difference between a developed country and a developing one. That a developed country takes advantage, full advantage of every opportunity God blesses it with to change its future positively. But a developing country will wake its future up in the morning and put a tray of groundnut on her head or a begging bowl in his hand and send his future out into the streets to go and beg. Imagine that our leaders travel in convoys of glittering cars, in private jets, while our children walk for kilometers to go to schools that have no windows, no doors, no desks, no books, no teachers. Tell me, who will represent us in the future? Who will represent us when the children of China, the children of India, the children of Brazil have come to full maturity? Who will represent us in the future? Who will fly the flag for us in the future when the children of Indonesia, the children of Mexico, the children of Turkey have come to full maturity? Who will carry us boldly into the future to stand shoulder to shoulder, eyeball to eyeball with the children of New York, the children of Paris, with the children of London? Look, I can understand if we blame slavery and colonialism for the wide gaps that exist between us and the rest of the world today. But if in the future our children, the children of Africa, are still slaves, if tomorrow our children, the children of this continent, are still dwarves, if tomorrow our children, the children of this black race, are still malnourished and impoverished, then ladies and gentlemen, we have nobody else to blame but ourselves. For we are the ones who today line the streets to cheer a governor who will not pay the salaries of public school teachers. We are the ones who today hail a politician as a strong man, strong enough to put one or two of his cronies in the Federal Executive Council, but not strong enough to improve the quality of education in the local government school. We are the ones who today practice a culture of politics that routinely prioritizes ethnicity over governance, religion over competence, our stomachs over the long-term prospects of our children. We are the ones who today say to leaders of a country where 13 million children are out of school, where mothers die routinely in childbirth, where the average child cannot live to the age of 5, we are the ones who say to the leaders of such a country that they are doing well. Not the white man. We are the ones who today are recolonizing and re-enslaving the children of Africa. And already we are reaping the harvest of our attitudes. For it is those children that we have failed to educate, enlighten, and empower that are today Boko Haram, that are today militants, that are today Yahoo boys, that are today kidnappers up and down the length and breadth of this country. And the ranks of the discontented can only grow as long as we refuse to prioritize the needs of our most numerous demographic, our children and our youths. The ranks of the discontented will only grow until one day no army, no police, no DSS will be able to hold back the storm. And when
the team, the growth of women and children in Africa, beyond rhetorics, where are we? Since the formation of FIDA in 1944, and especially since the establishment of the Nigerian chapter in 1964, among others in the rest of Africa, people of goodwill have keenly followed your activities, even leading to strong alliances with organizations and men towards perfecting your strategies to further your goals. This is most desirable and have yielded bountiful results, as can be cited with some instances in Nigeria. For example, FIDA Nigeria collaborated with the Legal Aid Council and the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs to help simplify the Child Rights Act. In the same manner, your advocacy work has yielded results in either facilitating the enacting of legal instruments or in popularizing them. There is, for example, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 and the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, also of 2015. Other advocacy works include those on the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the African Charter on Human Rights, as well as the Universal Charter on Human Rights, among several instruments that help guarantee the rights of women and children. In recognition of your efforts, you were honored by the federal government for your contribution towards stemming drug abuse. Also, during the constitution of the delegates for the 2014 National Conference, FIDA Nigeria was given 2 slots. The actions leading to these recognitions are some of the activities worthy of emulation by other chapters all over Africa. It is not out of place to state that the awareness organizations as yours, created over the years, partly informed my decision to introduce the Sexual Harassment in Tertiary Institutions Prohibition Bill during the 8th Assembly. At the last plenary section of the present 9th Assembly, I reintroduced the bill. It is expected that when the bill becomes law, it will help bring sexual predators in our tertiary institutions to book. Further, in the National Assembly as a whole, we will continue to amend our legislations and introduce new ones that will further help protect women and children. We are looking forward to partnering with FIDA on these issues. I am aware that many of your state chapters are doing great work, and I want to urge all state chapters to adopt and advocate in their states some very good rights advancement programs successfully adopted in some states. For example, FIDA Niger State was instrumental to the state committee that reviewed harmful traditional practices against women in parts of Niger State. In Akwa Ibom State, your chapter there established a facility to temporarily shelter female victims of all sorts of spousal abuse, including spousal and custom-related deprivation. Other chapters can also adopt this both within Nigeria and in other parts of Africa. Further, there are areas that seem grave and which you need to do more advocacy on. There is still the knotty issue of female genital mutilation. This is highly prevalent in Africa, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. Equally, very worrisome is the issue of child labor, child deprivation, and even child slavery. It does appear that what we seem to bother about is that these vices as they relate to human trafficking, especially cross-border trafficking. Finally, another issue that needs the urgent attention of FIDA is the use of young girls as baby factories, which has been reported in the media in recent times. I thank you all for listening.
March of our nation and Africa to progress. I'm profoundly grateful for the kind invitation of the Regional Vice President, Mrs. Victoria Awumolo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. As a continent, the responsibility of protecting the marginalized and vulnerable groups in our society behooves on us all. Often, particularly in instances of insecurity and economic incapacity, women, children, and the aged are the worst hit victims. Thus, I must commend the work you're all doing to ensure social justice, redress for wrongs, and access to legal justice for women and children. We live in interesting times. News are rife with violence against women and children. Where the offense is not committed against these groups, they still end up being most affected. Thus, more than ever, there is a lot to do. Beyond rhetoric, we must act, and the time to act is now. In furtherance of this joint aspiration, to ensure improved conditions for women, particularly as it concerns equal opportunities regardless of gender, I sponsored the Prisons Act Amendment Bill to ensure better welfare conditions for inmates and children born during dependency of a mother's jail term. The Labour Act Amendment Bill to remove limitations to work women can undertake, and the Police Act Amendment Bill to obliterate sections of the Act that discriminate against women. There is, however, so much more to do. Sexual-based violence and domestic abuse are disturbingly on the increase, and we must work to defend Nigerian women and children against them. Thus, I have recently sponsored an amendment to the Criminal Code Act, SB2, to remove the statute of limitation on prosecution of the offense of defilement, amongst others. Beyond these, we must continue advocacy and education. I challenge all women here to champion the cause of ensuring elimination of all forms of injustices and systemic discrimination against women in your various communities. Furthermore, it is my hope that as women, we will continue to support the causes of women's solidarity and development. Gloria Vanderbilt was right when she said, and I quote, "I always believed that one woman's success can help many other women succeed." I fully believe in these words, and I challenge our women to continue to do their utmost to ensure that women occupy influential positions in government, and that those already in these positions are given the moral support and encouragement needed to succeed. Only then can we truly begin to influence policy direction and the course of governance. Once again, I am most delighted to join you today and wish you
We will rebuild better, stronger. Bahamas strong. I also bring greetings to you from our international president, Shadana Gunaratnam, who unfortunately is not able to be with us in Congress. She says, and I quote, "There are 5 regions that make up FIDA International, and with all its diversity, Africa leads in terms of regional membership and the groundwork. Yes, give yourselves a round of applause. And the groundwork that is being done in the member states that are gathered here today at the opening of this regional congress. Cherise Brown from the Bahamas, our international treasurer, that's me, is representing FIDA International. And I wish to extend, this is Shadana, to all my sisters-in-law who continue to defy expectations as women and as lawyers, a most successful regional congress. I also bring greetings from past President Jacqueline Burrows, who sends her love to each and every one of you. She still speaks about the wonderful hospitality extended to her at your last regional congress. And I must say, you have extended that same hospitality to me. She, along with President Shadana, your very own Secretary Ezinwa, and the entire international executive urge you to get ready for FIDA Convention in Geneva, Switzerland. It will be held on November 2nd to November 5th, 2020. Please save the dates, save your pennies, mark your calendars. Your executive team is working feverishly and is excited to be hosting FIDACon 2020 in Geneva, Switzerland. Once again, I wish to congratulate Regional Vice President Victoria, Country President Rhoda, Committee Chairman Amina, and the very capable and hard-working Congress Committee, and most especially the delegates on your 2019 FIDA Africa Regional Congress. God bless you.
I have a friend who says that every time you hear the name of a professor or PhD